Welcome, everybody. Hello, Athena. How you doing this evening?
Doing well. Much better than last week. Much better. It's
hello there, John, Roger, Rita, Nigel, Little Twisted.
Hey, Twisted. Woo! He's back. Just did.
Yes. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, I want to talk about a little miracle that happened. Well, a couple of miracles that happened after the show. So for all y'all that were there last week, I had gone through some emotional stuff, and we kind of took that as the impetus forward in the show to talk about, when life throws you those challenges, how do you make sure you're making the right choices, right? So we did all that. And the next day, I knew I was going to have to do a closure activity with somebody that I've been having some, let's just call them disagreements with. And so I was on a real high from doing the show that night, Wednesday night. And on Thursday morning, I wake up and I see this little booklet laying next to, and it's small. I mean, here's my hand, right? It's small. It's a real tiny little thing. It's like half the size of an index card, folded in half. And it's laying on the floor between my bed, my reading chair, and my TV. And as soon as I wake up, I see it because it was not there when I went to bed the night before. So I'm like, what is that little thing over there? And so I look at it, and the title of it is Invocation for a New Beginning as a Conscious Being. And I was like, okay, that's pretty dang cool. And that kind of fits where I'm in the direction I'm heading. And then the very first page I opened up, I'm not going to read the whole book. I'll just read this first page because it just was the most perfect message to receive in that moment for me. So it says, you are a powerful spiritual being. It is your destiny to know this. This prayer is to advance your awakening. As you speak the invocations, find the tone of voice that links your heart and mind with spirit. Speak your power with authority, but not necessarily loudly, which of course I laughed. I always get this little tease from spirit at the same time. And then visualize the effects and bring the feeling of love down through your whole body from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. So when I read that, I just started crying because it was like, first of all, this thing manifested on my floor in my bedroom. Now, in full disclosure, I recognized that little booklet from years ago, and I know it was in one of my bookcases somewhere in my house. So it didn't just like aport in from Mars, right? It was somewhere in the house. But spirit, whether it was my mother's spirit, because she's on the other side of the veil, or whether it was the Holy Spirit, or whether it was some guide or angel who just said, hey, she just needs a little extra, hey, we're here. And after I read that, my heart just was so expanded and full of love and gratitude. And I heard the voice of spirit saying, we just needed to make sure you understood you are not alone. You're going to get through this. You are loved. Hang in there, right? It was like this pep talk from spirit, knowing that there's still this that last push, that last bit, if you're climbing up the mountain and you're almost to the summit and you're dang tired and you're like, oh my God, am I ever going to get there? And you see that sign and it's like, oh, it's only another 500 feet. I can do this, So it was one of those things that just really, just filled me with gratitude. And so, oh, cool, Twisted. That's cool. And so I wanted to share that with you because when we go through these tests and we make the choices to choose light over darkness, or faith over fear, or love over hate, or we say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to repay evil for evil. I'm better than that. Why? Not because I'm just a better person. It's because my soul doesn't want that. It would damage my soul and hurt my soul's purpose if I gave in to the temptations to hurt people that hurt me, to go out of my way to screw somebody that screwed me. Because that's not me, right? So don't let other people in your life, whether they're friends, family, loved ones, or just people in business, or even strangers, don't let other people push your buttons in such a way that you're no longer true to yourself, because that's when we're really lost, right? And it's really easy to go down this spiral, this rabbit hole, right? Because once you start, and I was on the call earlier with a client, and he was grieving. It's the anniversary of the death of a family member who committed suicide. And it's particularly hard for him because he felt, as many survivors of people who have committed suicide do, they feel guilty. They feel like they're confused. They're angry at themselves. They're angry at God. They're angry at spirit. Why didn't I get a heads up? How did I not see this coming? Why couldn't I do something to help it? And in a lot of ways, the reason we don't get the heads up is because we would actually interfere with that spirit, that soul's free will and free choice and agency to transition if that's what they want and choose to do. Now, even if they are mentally unstable or ill, even if there's something going on that would be an extenuating circumstance, we have to trust because we've seen it over and over and over in our lives. And I would even challenge you listening out there right now or watching right now, think back in your own life when it was something really important where you were supposed to be there, to be in the right place at the right time with the right people doing something. You got the prompting, you got the message. And in fact, if you missed the first time, sometimes you got it a second, third, or fourth time until you finally got your butt where you needed to be, right? Spirit is very clear with us when it's our job. And when it's not our job, or even if we volunteer, right? If it's not our place to be there, we cannot, in hindsight, dump guilt trips on ourselves because we weren't there, because we weren't supposed to be there. And in fact, I remember I worked with a client once. He was so upset because he wasn't there when his grandmother passed. And his grandmother was like his mother to him and had raised him. And he was on a business trip cross country. And when he got the phone call, she was near the end. He's flying back and he just didn't get there in time. And he was so upset and guilt ridden. Oh my God, why was that trip? I shared, the one person that I love the most in the world, and I couldn't even be there to help her when she was passing over. And grandma came through, right? And I'm like, your grandmother wants you to know that you were exactly where she wanted and needed you to be. Because if you were there by her bedside, holding her hand, she would not have had the courage to let go and go into the light. She would not have let go because your love would have been an anchor to stop her. She was in pain and ready and willing to cross over. If you had been there, it wouldn't have happened. So stop the guilt trip, right? So I think this is a really weird way to start the show, but I think what's really been occurring to me lately is how we as spiritual people in particular, we don't judge other people very much, right? Because we trained ourselves to be loving and kind and tolerant. Well, I don't like that word very much because it implies you have to put up with something. And it's like, no, we should just love them because they're our brothers and sisters and extended family. But we're very good about not judging others for the most part and cutting them slack and giving them grace. But aren't we hard on ourselves? We think because we make this decision and choice to live a life of service, to be a light in the world, to be someone who is there to help other people, that we can't screw up. Hey, newsflash, we're not perfect. We're working through our own stuff too. And so the first person that we have to be loving and kind and forgiving to or with is ourselves. That unconditional love. We got to start here and stop being so hard on ourselves. Because you know what happens? The dark side wins when we give into the despair or the anger or the self-hatred or self-loathing or self-criticism, because we think we didn't do something as perfectly as we coulda, shoulda, woulda in other circumstances, right? We have to learn to hold that space of love and be real in the moment, right? If you're pissed, it's okay to be pissed. I can say pissed right now. They'll bleep me.
Right.
If you're upset, it's okay to be upset. If you're feeling betrayed or angry, it's okay. You can feel those feelings, but just don't hold on to them like they're the life raft that's going to bring you back to shore. No, it's the anchor around your weight that's trying to drown you. You got to cut the cord. Don't hold on to that sucker. Let it go. Feel it, deal with it, express it, but then be real in what do I want? Who am I? Because if you hold on to that judgment, if you hold on to the darkness, if you give in to that and start spiraling around and looking at all the ways your life sucks and how you let yourself down and other people down and you just keep spiraling into that pit, you know what happens? You can't shine your light. Your spirit basically says, I'm going to step back for a minute. I'm going to wait for you here. When you're done having whatever that is, whether it's a pity party, whether it's a anger fest, whatever that is, you need to just let it go so that you can come back up and let your spirit get back to work, right? It doesn't leave you. It just is like, yeah, but that it doesn't, it's kind of like a vibration, right? If somebody's really ranting and raving, it takes two people to fight, right? So if somebody's wanting to engage with you and have that fight and rant and rave, and you're like, I'm just going to step back and be quiet. It kind of diffuses the situation. So you need to find ways for yourself. How can I diffuse this situation that I put myself in? And we can learn, right? You can look back at it and ask questions like, how the heck did this happen? Or why did I make this choice versus that choice? But you do it from a perspective of learning and wanting to make sure that doesn't happen again. Not for a guilt trip, not for something that's going to paralyze you or stop you from doing what brings joy to your soul and purpose to your path, right? So yeah, there's so much going on. There's so many distractions in the world today, right? There's all kinds of contenders. There's all kinds of disasters. There's like, it's head spinning. It's really critical now, probably more than ever, that each one of us finds ways to create that sacred space to rest, recharge, refocus, and just have this sense of sanctuary around us where we feel we're protected from the craziness in the world, so we can catch our breath, recharge our energy, and then figure out, where do I go from here? What's the best possible thing I can do to be a blessing to this other person, to help the situation be better, to help myself get to where I want to be on my path? So those kinds of questions are wonderful, useful questions. And when I used my intuition here, I said, what part of my book should I share tonight? I opened up to a writing called Ponder, and I want to share this because it really kind of sums in way that, this is spirit, much more eloquent than I've been. Like, spirit takes less than half a page to say what I just took 5 minutes to say, but it's a nice way to share it. So it says, Ponder. How will you sustain the thoughts and feelings of love and gratitude that you feel now when you go back into the world? Your intention, attention, and repetition are the keys until it becomes your nature to be or do nothing other than what is in alignment with your highest, truest version of yourself, fulfilling your purpose and expanding your love. Gratitude, service, mindfulness, love of self, love of others, love of all. Christed beings, Buddhas and saints, see only with the eyes of love and compassion. They are detached from judgment. They shine their light, they share their wisdom, and they sing their songs regardless if anyone hears. Ever knowing it is our ultimate nature to be nothing and everything, contained, expressed as, and through love. So that's a little bit from spirit. We have to really step back and try to be detached. And that was actually the first angel card that I picked today as well. Detachment. So what does detachment mean? Detachment isn't, I don't care. Detachment is not being bound to a particular, thank you, Tristan, not being bound to a particular outcome at the expense of everything else. And let me read what this angel card said, because it's really kind of cool. According to spiritual law, you may have anything that you desire. However, if your happiness and your sense of security or feeling of power depends on someone or something else in your life, then you are attached to that person or that thing, and it is like a chain that binds you, and it holds you to a lower lower frequency that actually keeps you stuck. When your attachments are released, you can no longer be manipulated emotionally. This enables you to reclaim your power and be genuine. And I would add, help you manifest the thing you're actually trying to manifest in your life. The next card I chose for us tonight, guys, is innocence. Innocence, and you know what, Twisted just posted that he feels like the energy that we're sharing today is right on, and the messages are for him. And I really hope and pray, and my intention is when I ask Spirit for what card, what should I read from the book, what cards we're going to pull, I do so asking, let the messages come. So whether you're listening to this live right now, or whether you tune in tomorrow, a week from now, or a year from now, I'm going to trust that Spirit got you to listen at this time and place to this episode, because some of these messages are for you. They should make sense to your head. They should ring true to your heart. They should feel right to your gut, right? That's how you know that you check the three places: your head, your heart, your gut. If they all go, yep, 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 then you know that's for you, right? And I hope that whatever podcast you're watching, I hope that the episodes do touch your heart, do make sense to your head, do ring true to your gut and go, yep, this is a message I needed. This is a direction, advice I needed to hear, or this is just a perspective or a way of looking things that are really helpful and healing right now. That's part of the point, I think, of having podcasts like this and sharing. It's not only so we can have some interactions and you can ask questions and Grizz and I can try to, get through them and come up with something that would be beneficial to share, but it's also our intention from the get-go that whatever we're talking about should be something useful. It should give some guidance. Maybe it's fun. Maybe it's, the hour should go flying by because it was interesting and useful. And maybe you got a nugget or a pearl that was just for you. And I hope that happens for a lot of you. And then the innocence card here, when we got that, everyone is guiltless in the truth, and no one can alter God's handiwork of perfection. Give up the feelings of heaviness. Lighten your load. Get rid of any guilt or anger or blame that's shrouding, darkening your loving outlook. Enjoy peace within your heart once more. When you see kids playing, and I love when I see the innocence card, one of the things it reminds me of so much is watching kids play, and even animals that play, dogs or cats when they're playing together. Not necessarily cats and dogs together, but cats playing with cats and dogs playing with dogs. Well, occasionally cats and dogs play together. But when I watch a group of young kids playing, that sense of innocence to me is so beautiful and it's so genuine because they're in the moment. And sometimes a kid will get hurt, or feelings get hurt, or somebody does something that they shouldn't have, or they take a toy, or they whatever, something happens and there's this momentary upset. Well, it's not like they hold on to it for the rest of their lives. Typically, within the next 5 minutes, they're back to having fun, playing their games, carrying on like nothing happened. There's such a great example of stay in the moment, be in the moment. If something doesn't work out the way you like, okay, you can have a hissy fit in the moment, but then get over it and get on, move on with your life. And I think as adults, so many of us have a hard time. We get stuck in the hissy fit. We don't know how to move on. We don't know how to let go. Is it that we feel like, if I leave this situation, then they win and I lose. No, that's just, that's faulty thinking. We can all win in our own ways, right? It depends. How do you define success? For me, especially with something I just went through over the last couple of weeks, success equated peace of mind. It didn't matter in the long run that somebody took advantage of my goodness and was taking things, right, that perhaps they should not have taken. Or they were, the old saying, give them an inch and they'll take a yard. Well, I was giving them an inch and they were taking a football field, right? It's like, holy mackerel. But it was a constant test of, who are you? What is the vibration you want? What is victory for you? And victory is getting through it as whole and intact as I can in my soul, in my heart, in my peace of mind. Because sometimes, and I've done this myself a lot in the past, guys, so it's sort of like, okay, I don't judge anybody who's still doing it, but it's so easy to get stuck in I want to be right. I want to come out with the outcome that I think is right. And you kind of dig your heels in, and it creates so much more problem for you than if you had just said, you know what, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to trust the universe on this one. If this gets taken away from me, even if it feels unjust, I'm still going to trust that the universe, with its infinite abundance and love and joy, is going to bring something as good or better back into my life, right? And once you kind of get into that flow and you're clear on what's the best outcome here, and I'm laughing, I'm hearing my grandfather in my head. He used to say, well, there's, for you guys out there, I'm sure that you've heard this phrase, happy wife, happy life, or I'd rather be happy than right. And so that kind of philosophy, although it may sound quaint or old fashioned, to some of you youngsters out there, but pay attention to that. There's some wisdom there. It's like, really, honestly, choose your battles. Think back to War Games, that movie from was it the 80s? Probably the 80s, maybe the 90s. But, it's this, the concluding thought by the supercomputer that was about to annihilate the world with nuclear war, with thermonuclear war, geothermal nuclear war, was the only way to win was not to play the game, right? That was the message of that movie. And I was like, you know what? We have to take some of that wisdom and apply it to now in our lives in big and small ways, for the sake of our peace, for the sake of our soul, for the sake of what we're trying to accomplish. And then, I picked the next card was past lives. And where that came in was, we don't know consciously what karma we're dealing with. So maybe the reason we're on the receiving end of a wrath of injustice now is that's part of what's cleaning the slate for stuff that happened once upon a time somewhere else. And now is the opportunity our souls are taking to kind of, let's clear that out. And so that's one possible positive way to reframe any shitty thing that you're going through right now. It might be, okay, I'm burning off some karma here. So let me get through it as quick as I can. Let's not dig my heels in and stay here any longer. Let's not get stuck in the quicksand, right? Let me figure out how the heck can I get out of here as fast as I can, and it's intact and whole as I can. So that kind of thinking is very different than this kind of contentious, my side has to win, or I have to win, and I have to win, which means you have to lose. And it's like, no. The other way I'd like to help reframe anything challenging or dramatic or traumatic that we're going through now that we think is unfair is also, we may be on a soul level complicit with going through this hell right now, so that we can learn resiliency. We can learn how to get out of these kind of holes, so that we can help our brothers and sisters when they fall into those similar pitfalls, right? Because I believe if you're tuning into the show, you're somebody who has chosen to be a light in the world. And so if you're there actively trying to develop your spiritual gifts, if you want to be a positive impact on others, you want to live a life that's making a difference, not just for you and your immediate family, but for anyone whose lives you are touching, your soul may say, the best way you can do that next year and really impact a lot of people's lives is by going through this hell right now. And so on a soul level, you've agreed. And so again, go back to that. What's the most loving, kind, forgiving thing you can do for yourself? If this was your best friend going through the same thing you were, your sister, your brother, your best friend, someone you really loved and cared about, what would be the words of encouragement that you would be giving to them? You wouldn't be laying guilt trips on them. Unless you kind of were gonna like, well, sometimes us New Yorkers, you bust chops, and you kind of, somebody loves you if they bust chops and they make fun of you, right? But it's a fun, lighthearted teasing. It's not a guilt trip. It's not a shaming or blaming. It's kind of a poke, to make them laugh. I know certain geographies around the states don't do that as much, so just wanted to explain that reference. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, I picked 3 tarot cards for us for tonight. So the first one is what's happening now. The tower change. It's radical change is happening. There's all kinds of energy. And it's like everybody feels like the tidal waves are coming, the tsunamis are coming, the fires are coming, and God bless. I mean, there are literal fires going on. There's literal tsunamis of water raining. Like you look at the 2 coasts, it's like there's fires in the Northeast and there is a foot of rain coming in the West Coast. And you're like, oh my goodness, right? There's all kinds of unrest going on in nature as well as with people. And, I remember watching a movie once where whatever emotions the main character was having, it was impacting the weather. So when she was crying, it was raining. When she was angry, it was a lightning and thunderstorm. When she was happy, it was this beautiful sunshiny day, right? And I got to thinking about that earlier today when I was watching the Weather Channel and seeing like all this craziness happening around us. And I wondered, do you think, is it possible that all of this contentious unrest that 90% of humanity has, right? That there's everybody's this we, they, them, us, this kind of frantic worrying and dealing with all this stuff. Do you think it's possible that as a group consciousness, and Grizz, I'd like your thoughts on this if you have them, but collective consciousness of so much unrest, I wonder if we're actually exacerbating whatever the natural conditions would normally, obviously we have global warming or climate change and that sort of thing that's happening. But I'm wondering how our emotions and our mental states and the energy fields that we are having, if we're not actively working for peace and light and love, if it's just this frenetic kind of going through the day and all that contention, I wonder if we're actually making things worse.
Yes,
what do you think?
Yes, our thoughts can change the process and frequencies. Yes.
Yeah. So then, boy, doesn't it make it even more important for us to do our part? I remember years ago, I read the work of images. I saw the images from water. It's this Dr. Emoto, forget his last name. Oh my God, it was where he took pictures of water crystals and water that people screamed and cursed at. And then he took a slide of water and took a picture of it under a microscope. And all the water molecules looked like destroyed and blasted. It was freaky. And then he took another glass of water where everybody had prayed over it and sent love into it. And he puts that into a slide and takes a picture of it. And it's like radiant. It's beautiful. The water crystal molecules are like pieces of artwork. And you're like, wow. So they started doing experiments where they would go to like a polluted lake and have a lot of people just send love to that water. And over time, it cleared out the pollution. And so it's not even so much prayer, although a lot of us do, I'm sure, believe in the power of prayer and the ability to heal others at a distance by, sending the thoughts and good energy. But are we collectively, and maybe as a book, as part of the Bigfoot Nation, we can make it part of our charter to whatever way you pray, when you pray, if you pray, right? Or whenever you're meditating and visualizing, send out loving energy to our planet, to the world, to take your energy and use it with love and send it on out there, just to wherever it's needed. Don't even try to direct it. Just say, I'm sending out the best good mojo I have at my beck and call, and I'm sharing that with whoever needs it in the world, and let it soak in everywhere it's needed. And if we all did that, instead of worrying and getting trapped in the quicksand of the contention and distracted by all the day-to-day stuff that really puts our light down, right? It puts a bushel over us, right? The old saying in the Bible, right? Don't put your light in a bushel, shine your light. But it's really easy to have all the distractions of the world and stuff happening around us that we forget what's really most important. And so if we make it part of our spiritual practice, it's like, and maybe we could do something funny. So let's, okay, adding it into the prayers. That's like, okay, I don't know whose energy I'm picking up on, but you're gonna laugh, and I want you to own up to it in the comments, because I heard it loud and clear. Somebody's guide came in here and they're laughing. They said, no, they don't want to pray anymore. They want to they don't have time for that. Link it to something else. So they said, every time you flush your toilet, okay, I don't care how many times you go in a day, and I don't care which way it is, right? Every time you flush your toilet, and see that's cleansing you, cleanse the world. Just send that thought out, that all that water that's spiraling in there, let that whole kind of spiraling energy clean the world. Like a big flush of any contention, a big flush of anything that's not working. Whose guide is this? Eric. I want to know.
Sounds like Eric.
Oh my God, whose guide is this? You're out of control. Yeah. Or brushing your teeth. Okay, if you brush your teeth twice a day or after every meal, as you're brushing your teeth, imagine cleaning out, sending cleaning energy out, loving energy out into the world, that whoever needs to brush up their world, they can have that energy, right? So take things that are part of your day-to-day habit. So you don't necessarily have to sit there and chant and pray and send love and peace and grace out to the world, right? Just, as whatever you're doing day to day, just incorporate that thought form of helping, of loving, of sending something positive to clean and calm and bless and grace everybody and everything everywhere. Are you game for that? Bigfoot Nation, yeah? Can we do that? Can we make that part of our collective homework? To start being more mindful at least once a day, to send a blast of love out into our environment and as far out as it can go. Now would be a good time in the comments to say yes.
That was twisted.
Okay.
Oh, twisted.
All right. So the next card I chose for today was the 9 of Rods, and that's reminding us the importance of listening to our intuition and listening to the promptings that we have, right? We all have that constant connection with spirit. They're there all the time. They're waiting for us. We just have to make sure we consciously stop and tune in and listen to them. It's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to have hours and days and weeks go flying by, and you go, oh shit, I forgot to meditate. Or, oh, I can't remember the last time I said a prayer. Or, oh, I haven't been to the gym. I meant to go to the gym. I meant to go swimming. I meant to, right? But somehow or other, life takes over and distracts us and engages us, and not necessarily overwhelms, but it could be. I mean, I look at especially people with young families these days. holy moly, it's just this like non-stop go, 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 go. Like, I don't know how it became so chaotic. But I think what's happened in some cases is they try to do everything instead of prioritizing what's most important. There's like this fear of missing out, right? Oh, I have to go. I gotta go. I gotta go. I gotta go. Maybe you don't have to do it all. Maybe it's better to do a few things really well, or participate in a few events that you can be totally enjoying and immersed in, and be relaxed, not be looking at your watch or your phone going, okay, I got to leave here in 5 minutes because I got the next thing I got to go run to, right? And then the last card is a bit of a warning, not to overindulge. The Nine of Cups, and trust me on this one, I know that when things get a little crazy in my life, I can be an emotional eater, that comfort eater. So when there's a high level of stress, I beeline it for the ice cream, right? That's my comfort food. Or dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate, actually. I try to find healthy reasons to eat dark chocolate too, not just because of having craziness happen. But but I know in these last couple of weeks, if I said it once, I said it at least 4 times to different people, that if this gets any worse, I'm gonna have to turn back to I need a drink, right? And I have been pretty. I was never an alcoholic, but I grew up in an alcoholic family. So to me, drinking was always something that was if you did it at all, just keep it social and drink things that taste good, right? It wasn't drinking to get drunk or drinking to numb things. This past couple of weeks, I was like, I understand now why some people might drink to get drunk because they don't want to deal with this stuff going on. And it's like, but I that was part kidding, but there was also some truth in that. Is I wanted to escape. If I lived in a state where gummies were legal, I'd be like, okay, where's the nearest dispensary? I'm going to go get me a gummy, and just bliss out for a little while, because it's exhausting trying to be on top of things all the time and do the right things and shine your light and not disappoint ourselves first. Why do we do this to ourselves, guys? Why do we have this bar so high that it's almost inachievable? It's almost impossible, right? To get there sometimes. And yet we get mad at ourselves if we don't do it consistently. Why? Would you hold anyone else to that standard? No, of course not. Right. So when things are tight and driving you a little crazy, this card is saying, just don't go to the obsessive types of behaviors that hurt you. Find something that's a relief that might be more productive. So maybe it could be go dancing, or go listen to a beautiful concert, or blare some music that you love and sing like there's nobody there to hear you, right? And dance around your room, right? Go play with a puppy or kitten, or go volunteer and go read for an old blind person at a nursing home. Be of service. Get out of your own way a little bit, right? So those things are there. So I want to share one other story before I take any questions or tune into anybody else today. So somebody that I loved and cared about and really respected their opinion said something terribly harsh and mean and cruel to me, knowing it would hurt me. And the net of it was, Althea, you don't have any friends. You have people that you have to pay to be in your life, or you have to give away free stuff. Otherwise, they won't come into your life. And I was like, wow, that's cold, because I truly have always tried to be, and I think I am, one of the most loyal, dependable friends a friend can have. I'm a good friend to my friends, right? I'm a person of my word. So this was one of the harshest things that anybody could say to me, and it wounded me, right? For that moment, I was like, oh man. And then this last weekend, I put out an SOS for help with cutting down a tree that gotten hit by a tornado that came by here, and it's been there for a couple of years. And I asked for some men from the church to come and can you come help chop it down and split it and stack it. And and by the way, there's all kinds of junk around the farm. I live on a 21-acre farm, and there was all kinds of stuff that needed to go into a dumpster that was way heavier than I can manage. So I just kind of put out the SOS, and about 18 people showed up from my church, and I was so moved. And during the lunch break, I told them what this other person had said to me about that I didn't have any friends, that I had to just pay people to come. And one of the guys came over to me and he said, that person was right, Althea. You don't have friends. You have family. You have family and you are loved. And of course we're here for you. And I started crying. I've been doing that a lot lately, mostly out of gratitude and love and feeling of support. And the reason I'm sharing that story now, guys, is I want to think of the Bigfoot community in a lot of ways as spiritual family. We may become friends, right? We'll get to know each other over time, know each other's name sometimes. So it doesn't matter. We'll become friends over time. We're sharing this journey together, right? But we're also part of this bigger family, people that have spiritual interests, people that we care about each other, right? And sometimes knowing that we are not alone. We have spiritual support for sure, but sometimes when you're in the midst of the muck and the mire, it's hard to tune in and feel that love, right? But if we can be there for other people, and if we can express to them, hey, you are my adopted family. I have adopted grandkids. I dated this guy. I met his daughter, one of his daughters, and his grandkids. I wound up not dating him anymore, but that daughter and I became great friends, and her kids adopted me as their adopted grandma. And I'm going to be going down to Ohio for Christmas to bake, Christmas cookies with the kids, right? I don't have family in my life anymore. I have a few back east, but around me, most of them are on the other side of the veil. And so adopted family, right, is so amazing. And that's what we can be for each other if we choose to be, right? We can be that spiritual family and support for each other when we're going through challenges. We can share the wisdom and the advice of, when I went through something like that, I realized I got stuck in the quicksand. Oh, but now I can get out. There's an old story. When I worked I was a professional meeting consultant for a while, and I used to facilitate meetings. And there was an old story about a guy who walks down the road, and he falls into a hole, and it's really weird and strange for him, and it takes him forever to finally figure out his way out of it. And then the next day he walks down the same road, he falls in the hole, but now it's a familiar hole, so it didn't take him very long to get out of it. And then the next day he's walking down the same road, and he realizes before he falls in, wait, there's that hole, and he sidesteps it. And then on the fourth day he walks down a different path. He's like, I'm not even going to go down there. I don't have to deal with that damn hole, right? Well, when you're part of that spiritual family, you can be walking down the road and you've already mastered the hole. You figured out how to avoid that hole anymore. So now you can be there. If you see somebody that's fallen in a hole, you can help them get out. You can give them those pointers of, okay, here's where the handholds are. Or, hey, you're walking down that road, be careful, because in another 100 yards, there's a hole there that might get you. We can be there for each other with those cautionary tales, with the advice, because we lived it. Part of resiliency, the definition of resiliency is not just surviving, but thriving through adversity. It's getting through it, figuring out what you need to do to get through. And one of the best ways to get through is with the love and the support of others. Okay. All right. So, is this a question? This is this.
No, a comment that Virgil's making.
I'm not. Hold on a minute.
Yeah,
This
he's just making
video.
a statement to
Oh,
help somebody
okay.
else.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So one of the things, were there any questions or topics that we need to talk about today that's on your hearts and minds, guys out there? Or did you notice anything, Grizz?
No, everything's running smoothly like always with you.
Oh man, yeah. So one of the things that I've been also thinking about is how can I be of most service, out there in the world right now. Letting messages from spirit come through. I think it's important for us to open our channels as much as possible, and again, be real, guys. If I this is I just talk about not judging, and yet I'm going to give you judgment, right? So trust me, I'm not perfect. But I see some people that are out in this field, the metaphysical field, they try to make it seem like, oh well, I've figured this out, and now you have to come to me and join whatever my thing is, and maybe I'll share some of my wisdom with you, right? And they make it sound like it's like this special thing, and it's like, no, it's incumbent upon us. If we got through it, you're supposed to help the other person, right? It's like the bucket brigade. It's like if somebody helps you, you pay it forward, right? That's just how it should be. And if you figure something out, if you know this much more than your neighbor, you can share that with your neighbor. You don't have to wait till you have a flippin' PhD or a gazillion certifications in something. If your heart is telling you, love this person, help this person, share with this person, honor that, do that. And don't judge yourself and say, well, how can I help them? Or what could I possibly do that they might need? Or what could I give them that they don't already have? You'd be surprised. You'd really be surprised. A lot of times, people are lonely. They're not seen. They don't feel heard. I know a woman came to me. She lost her daughter a little over a year ago. And she had been the primary caregiver and caretaker of her daughter. Her daughter was born with a birth defect, told she only had 6 months to live. And she lived to be 40 years old, but in a handicapped position where she couldn't talk, couldn't move. And this mother, a saint of a mother, took care of this daughter for 40 years. And she was grieving, obviously at the time, but it's been over a year. And when I talked to her, she said, people think I should have moved on by now. They don't even ask about her anymore. They don't say her name anymore. And she's like, I'm not done. I'm not ready just to move on. My whole life was defined for 40 years as this mom and caretaker. And I told her, I said, yeah, I get it. People think that there's a certain amount of time for everything. 1 year of mourning and then you move on. 2 years after a divorce and then you remarry or whatever. Pick a time, right? There's certain norms. There's certain norms that are experienced out there, and we have to also be present for what your friends, your family, your colleagues need. Sometimes, and I'm very guilty of this because I'm a big talker, but I can be a good listener too. But just having somebody say, hey, how are you doing? And mean it. It's not just oh, I'm fine, thanks. But they really know you're not. And taking the time to share and listen and give that person whatever they need, whether it's the hug, the space, the encouragement, or just the validation of this way. There's no set time on how long it takes to heal from going through a loss. whether it's a loss of a pet, a person, a job, a possession, whatever it is, for you, it's your journey. And we can be there for each other, holding the space, giving out grace, giving out love. It is our privilege and honor to do that. It's not a duty. That's not work. That's how we shine our light. That's one other way that we can be there, making a positive impact on people's lives. What do you think, Riz?
Absolutely. It's a good show. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, check out Athena website and all of our links down below. We got a show coming up at 9:00 tonight. And also, we got our shirts in, and all of our gemstones, pocket stones are loaded up on the website. Check it out. What do you think?
All right. And was there a question? When I was finishing some thoughts there.
Yeah, if you can answer it real quick.
Kind of sort of like, okay, what can I do about my feelings about my near-death experience? Okay, well, I would say honor them, journal them, share them with somebody that you trust. I know a lot of people that have had NDEs over the years, and some of them, it's transformative. It changes them in a positive way. So others, it kind of freaks out. Some it makes want to totally change their life because they realized they were focused on different things. I think just the most important advice I can give anybody about your feelings is honor them. Be real in that moment about them, journaling your thoughts and asking spirit if there's something that you need to heal. Especially if it's an uncomfortable emotion or feeling, then, you want to kind of work through it and even ask the question, so why is this freaking me out so much? Or what about this disturbs me? Or what about this needs to be healed or have some light shown on it? And see what comes through, when you do that. So that might help you a little bit there. And then sharing it with somebody that you trust. And by the way, there's a huge, and the IONS organization is all about near-death experiencers sharing their experiences with each other. They're there to support people that have had recent ones, as well as talking about whether they were 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago, right? So I would also reach out to that IONS group, IONS, IONS. It's International Organization for Noetic Sciences, and then there's EONS, which is one that's specifically for the near-death experiencers. So I would reach out to one of those groups, or just join one of their chats, because there'll be people that can kind of help you because they went through maybe similar things that you went through. So you won't feel so alone with that as well, right? Again, a big part of how we can be here for each other, right? I love the line in the movie with.
Well, Athena, where'd you go? And from coast to coast, around the world, everybody. Good night. We'll see you at 9:00.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shall we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk? Action. No, get out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just going to sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!